Hi guys. All right, so we're nearing the middle of fall, and it's really kind of getting dark around this time. So this is probably one of the last times I record a video on the way back from work, because I think the quality just is getting not quite good enough. In any case, I wanted to share with you an insight that might be of interest for you to kind of try to wrap your minds around, and I'd say we could probably wrap our minds around it together, okay? Because this is something that I'm only kind of beginning to explore in my NI notes. I feel like it has to be part of my narrative in the NI book that will come out next year. And it has to do with desire, right? A topic that is not discussed enough in personality circles when we think about our personality type, whether it's INFJ, INTP, ESTP, or whatever. We don't really talk about that desire, right? And it has to be talked about. It has to be addressed. And I think that we have interesting things to say about it. Now, before I move on, I just want to remind you that I have a Patreon page where you can support me. You can support me on a monthly or yearly basis. It's only a few euros or dollars a month or a year. It's not a small amount, but it makes a huge difference to me being able to continue with this work. So please consider supporting me. I could not do this without you. Link is below. You get access to some cool perks, like access to a whole library of deep dives, long format videos just for patrons. So if you can't have enough of my stuff, it's all there. It's already quite rich, as well as the Discord server, our Discord community. Come hang out with us on a daily basis. Okay, guys. So now that I've said that, it is a matter of some surprise to me and some bewilderment, actually, that that when people discuss their personality and they try to kind of understand more about their personality, they rarely approach it from the point of view of desire. They approach it from the point of view, maybe the more superficial kind would be like, well, I have these traits, and so it must mean that I'm this type or whatever. If they go a little deeper, they'll think like, I have these aspirations. I view the world in this way. These ideas make more sense to me. They speak to me more. I am looking rather for this than that in relationships, both friendships and romantic relationships. I have this kind of vision of how it would be in my family. I have this life project. That's definitely a deeper way of looking into the issue. But what is it that makes you tick? What is it that makes you? What is it that like sets your desire in motion, that motivates you, that gives you energy to do things? We're not just talking about sexual desire, although sexual desire is a component, of course, but the desire to just do stuff. That's not purely a matter of perception. It's also not purely a matter of judgment. If you just stay at this kind of relatively superficial level of understanding of perception and judgment, there's not much you're going to be able to say about desire. But at the same time, if people come to the world of type from a perspective that is not purely one of narcissistic reinforcement, okay, telling themselves things to feel better about themselves or something like that, and we know that this happens, but if they are if they are aiming to encounter type as a kind of self-discovery, for some even a kind of self-therapy, then the question of desire has to be central, because that is literally the pulse of our life. We don't do things if we don't have desire. And what I want to say and share with you, and this is what we might have to wrap our heads around, is that I have come to the tentative conclusion that the way in which we desire, the way in which we activate it, the way in which we kind of lose it, the way in which we ride it, it has a lot to do with our type. It has a lot to do with the kind of type we have. And you can think about it in this way. All right. So, as you know, at least according to me, there is a more than profound connection between the kind of type we are, all right, say INFJ in my case, and the kind of unconscious fantasy world with fantasy PH that I possess. This unconscious fantasy world is the original motor, it's the original engine of desire. Okay, what is it that sets desire in motion in our everyday life? Okay, it's fantasies with an F, right? We fantasize about people, we fantasize about particular achievements, particular projects, particular situations, particular places we want to visit, particular kinds of employment, where we would like to be in our career. We have these fantasies. If these fantasies are not so divorced from sort of long-term reality as to be almost by essence unrealistic and unattainable, they can be a strong source of fantasy, and in this respect, motivational fantasy. They can actually push us to do things, push us to ask someone out, take more training to progress in your career, book tickets to travel to a new place, and so on. All kinds of things. Set a set of plans to carry out a particular project. The engine of desire is in motion. It's not just about being able to visualize the projects in intellect, perceive, or even decide to start out on it with judgment. It's also about having the energy to sort of carry it through. And here desire is very massively involved. And so these are fantasies with an F, right? We're more or less conscious of them, and also conscious of the fact that they are not completely unrealistic. That's why we can fantasize in a productive way about them. But we know that fantasies with an F are only the external spokespeople, in a way, of fantasies PH, fantasies that are in the unconscious. But we've already decided, I've already decided, and hopefully at least some of you are on board with this, that fantasies PH which are the kind of interlocking narratives that together as a whole and as a complex holistic web are the main determinants of our type. These have a very, very pronounced NI coloring for NI dominance, TE coloring for TE dominance, SE coloring for SE dominance. So our dominant fantasies PH, which are the source of our of how our fantasies with an F are shaped and colored, have a dominant functional feel. So it inevitably must mean that the way in which we fantasize about people and things and projects and places in the real world is colored, shaped, traced, and influenced by our dominant function. We are acting in desire under the pressure of fantasy with PH. This is a phrase that I use in my book, and I'm quite happy with it in my current manuscript. So wrap your head around that. It's not just that our type gives us a clue to how we view the world and view others and value others. It's also how our type gives us a clue to how we desire others and desire things and projects and places and visions. Of course, there's no risk of this landing us in very monolithic territory, because our fantasies, us human beings, have a way of being very creative with our fantasies in such a way that we can weave all sorts of narrative, infinitely many narratives around infinitely many kinds of people, places, projects, ideas, and so on. All right. So it's certainly not as if an INFJ can only be attracted to X kind of person. But whether we are attracted to this INFJ over there, or to that ESFJ over there, or to that ENFP over there, has far more to do with how we articulate our own fantasies and whether they can latch onto our encounter with that particular person. And so for NI fantasies, this will have to do with repair at some level. Lots of ways of weaving that around, but it has to be involved. Okay, guys, so let me know in the comments what you think, and don't forget about my 2 books on the INFJ, the Ecstatic Soul and the Infinite Soul, which are 2 absolutely essential works to understand the INFJ in a depth psychological way and not in a shallow way. So if you haven't got them, this one is more focused on the INFJ in the world, the Infinite Soul, and the Ecstatic Soul, is prequel, is more focused on the internal world of the INFJ. The books are linked below. Get them, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, take care.